"I'm offering myself. Can I have shelter for one night?" "Please," said the Apache beauty to the cowboy as the desert wind pushed dust across the open gate. Lantern light flickered on her beaded dress as she stepped inside, her voice shaking but her eyes steady, carrying a truth she refused to speak. The cowboy froze, sensing danger in the silence behind her, hoofbeats fading, shadows moving, something she was running from. But what secret drove her to offer herself for shelter in the dead of night, and what will he discover when dawn breaks? The wooden gate creaked in the wind, its slow groan echoing through the empty canyon as a thin ribbon of dust swirled around the doorway. A single lantern swung from a nail, casting long, trembling shadows across the worn boards of the small frontier cabin. Inside, a cowboy stood with his hand hovering near the table, frozen by the sudden knock he'd heard only seconds before, a soft, unsure tapping that didn't belong to the night. When he opened the door, she was already stepping across the threshold, an Apache beauty, wrapped in beads and rawhide, breathing like someone who had outrun a ghost. She didn't ask who he was, didn't wait to be invited. She simply stood beneath the lantern's glow, dust on her skin, fear in her breath, and said the words that stopped the room cold. "I'm offering myself. May I have shelter for one night, please?" Her voice was gentle, but her shoulders were tight, like she was bracing for a blow. The cowboy watched her closely. She carried no horse, no bag, no weapon, only the weight of a choice she hadn't wanted to make. Outside, the desert night stretched wide and silent, but the silence didn't feel empty. It felt watched. He stepped aside, letting her enter. She moved with caution, eyes sweeping the corners of the room even though she kept her distance. Her breath trembled as she touched the edge of a wooden chair, fingers gently tracing the grain as if grounding herself. The cowboy noticed the marks on her wrists, faint, recent, the kind made by rope or rough handling. He didn't ask about them. Instead, he set a tin cup of warm water on the table. That was his first quiet act of care. She accepted it with both hands, lowering her eyes as though the simple kindness hurt more than the fear she carried. Outside, a distant thud echoed like a boot hitting dry earth, or a horse shifting its weight in the dark. Her head snapped toward the sound, breath catching. The cowboy felt the shift instantly. Whoever she was running from had followed her into the night, and they were getting closer. The lantern hissed softly, its weak flame fighting the draft that slipped through the cracks in the cabin wall. Outside, the desert night pressed close, heavy with the smell of dust and dry sage. The cowboy moved to the window and pushed the curtain aside with 2 fingers, careful not to rattle the glass. "Anyone out there?" the Apache woman whispered. "Not close yet," he said. "But someone's riding is slow." She set the tin cup down, hands still wrapped around it like it might vanish. Her eyes tracked the door, not the window. She seemed to know where the real danger would come from. "I can pay," she murmured. "With work, not with that." He heard the strain in her voice. The words she refused to use weighed more than the ones she chose. He pulled a second chair from the corner and set it near the table, legs scraping softly on the floorboards. "You're not paying with yourself," he said. "Not under this roof." She flinched at the word roof, as if the promise of safety hurt her more than the offer she had made. Her shoulders eased only a little, like someone loosening a rope that had been tight for years but not daring to cut it. "You don't know what follows me," she said. "Reckon I don't," he answered. "You can still sit." She sank onto the edge of the chair, back straight, as if someone might burst in and judge her posture. The leather fringe of her dress brushed the floor, still carrying sand from the trail. Her bare arms showed faint, round bruises, in a pattern that said fingers, not accidents. He walked to the stove, opened its iron mouth, and coaxed the small fire inside. Dry wood popped, sending up bright sparks. The warmth crept slowly toward her, touching her hands first. "That your act of kindness?" she asked. "Fire and a chair." He stirred the coals with the poker. "Kindness is letting you stay," he said. "Fire is just decent." She watched the orange glow, but her ears stayed tuned to the night. A distant jingle answered her fear, a loose bridle, metal tapping lightly with each step. She took a sharp breath and pressed her palm flat against the table. "They'll come here," she said. They always search the lonely houses first. Who's they? He asked. She hesitated, tongue pressing against the back of her teeth. Men with papers, she replied. Men who say, I'm written down as theirs. He looked over at her. Debt? He asked. Contract? Auction, she said quietly. Same thing. Different dust. The words hung between them like smoke. He felt the old anger rise, the kind that came whenever Law did the hurting and called it order. He set the poker down and wiped his hands on his worn trousers. You run from a husband? He asked. From a bargain, she said. My people lost land. He bought the debt, then me. The cowboy thought of the ranchers in town, their neat papers and crooked smiles, their talk of agreements, while young women stood silent at their side. He had seen it more than once. He had never seen one of those women knock on his door. Why offer yourself again? He asked softly. You just escaped that. Her jaw tightened. Some men only help if they're owed, she said. I hoped you were not one of them, but I could not risk it. He let the truth of that settle. Her offer had been born from fear, not shame. The choice between her body and the open desert had not felt like a choice at all. You're safe here, he said again. I'm not trading shelter for flesh. The wind shifted outside, carrying the distant clap of hooves more clearly now. 2 horses at least, maybe 3. Their pace was steady, careful, not a traveler lost in the dark, men who knew where they were going. They're using the road, the woman whispered. He travels with a badge now, so people open doors. A sheriff? The cowboy asked. New deputy, she said. The rancher pays him with beef and whiskey. He pays with his badge. The cowboy stepped back to the window and blew out the lantern, plunging the room into soft darkness. Moonlight seeped through the cracks, tracing thin silver lines across the floor. Why kill the light? She asked. Light makes targets, he answered. Dark lets you breathe. In the shadows, she seemed to grow smaller and stronger at once. Her outline sharpened, every muscle ready to run or stand. He couldn't tell which. She slid off the chair and moved to the corner beside the door, pressing her back against the logs where no one on the porch could see her. You know how to stay quiet? He asked. I learned young, she said. Silence kept my people alive. He nodded, though she could not see it. He reached for his rifle, then stopped halfway. Steele would turn this into a gunfight. Steele would give the deputy the story he wanted. Instead, he walked to a shelf and grabbed a folded piece of paper, yellowed at the edges. He laid it on the table and smoothed it with his palm. What's that? She whispered. Old deed, he said. Says this place is mine. Says the land's paid for. That protect me? She asked. Maybe, he replied, if the man with the badge remembers what words mean. The hooves grew louder, then slowed, crunching gravel near the corral. A horse snorted, breath heavy in the cool night. Leather creaked, spurs jingled, patient and sure. The woman's hand slid along the wall until she found a small gap between the logs. She pressed one eye to it, watching the shape of the riders appear as dark cuts against the faint sky. How many? The cowboy murmured. 2 horses, she said. 3 men. 3 against 1 isn't fair, he muttered. She gave a dry, humorless breath. You're not the one they think they own, she said. Boots hit the ground outside. Slow steps crossed the packed dirt toward the porch. One pair was heavy, dragging slightly, like a man who carried more authority than muscle. Another was light, quick, trained to move when told. The third walked with the lazy roll of someone who believed no door could stay closed to him. A knuckle rapped on the wood, 3 polite taps that sounded almost gentle. Evening, a calm voice called through the door. Lawman here. Got some papers to discuss. The cowboy glanced at the woman in the shadows. Her fingers dug into the wall until her knuckles went white. The handle of the door began to turn. The handle clicked once, eyed as slow and deliberate, as if the man on the porch wanted the sound to settle into the room before he made his entrance. The cowboy stepped forward, palm flat against the wood, holding the door shut without a word. His breath stayed steady, but his jaw tightened, a small shift she caught even in the dim light. Outside, the lawman gave a soft chuckle. No need for fuss, he said through the door. Just routine business. Heard someone pass this way tonight. Someone who doesn't belong on their own. The woman pressed herself deeper into the shadows. fingers trembling as she skimmed the wall for another crack to watch through. "He's talking about me," she whispered. "That voice? He serves the rancher. He always speaks sweet before he takes things." The cowboy lowered his voice to a murmur. "Keep silent. Let me speak." He straightened, rolling back his shoulders, and pushed the door open only a hand's width. A sliver of moonlight cut across the floor. The deputy's hat brim appeared first, then his smile. Small, polite, shaped like a man who collected fines and favors with the same gentle tone. Behind him stood two ranch hands, one with a rifle slung carelessly over his shoulder, the other leaning against a post, chewing a twig like this was a casual visit. "Evening," the deputy said again. "You look nervous, friend. Nothing wrong here, I hope?" "Just tired," the cowboy replied. "Long day, what do you need?" "Looking for an Apache girl," the deputy said. "Young. Pretty. Ran away from her lawful caretaker. We've got papers saying she's under contract. Belongs back on the ranch till debts are paid." Inside the cabin, her breath hitched. The cowboy kept his expression flat. "A girl, you say? Haven't seen any travelers tonight." The deputy tilted his head. "Funny. Got word from a rider that she came this way. Might have knocked on a door or two, maybe yours." The cowboy shrugged. "Your rider saw shadows in the dark." The deputy leaned forward, as if trying to peer past him. "May I come in?" "Only take a moment." "No," the cowboy said. Calm, final. The ranch hand on the left sneered. "Man's hiding something." The deputy lifted one finger, a polite warning to his own men. "Easy. We're not here to start trouble." Then he looked at the cowboy. "You know how these things go. You refuse entry. It sounds like obstruction. A lawman can't ignore that." "You ain't the law," the cowboy said. "Just wearing the badge of a rancher who pays you." The deputy's smile thinned. "Badge is real enough. Paper is real too." He tapped a rolled document at his belt, and the signature on it says, "That girl belongs to the man who bought her fair and legal." From the shadows, the woman pressed her forehead to the wall. "Fair and legal," she mouthed silently, as if the words themselves were poison. "I don't give a damn about his paper," the cowboy said. The deputy sighed, as though disappointed in a child. "I'll tell you straight, she's worth money. 3 days gone, and the rancher's patience is wearing thin. If she's here, hand her over quietly. No need for noise." Inside, her hands curled into fists, she whispered, "He promised to break my voice first if I ever ran again." The cowboy didn't look back, but he heard her, every word. He opened the door another inch, enough for his frame to fill the gap like a barrier. "This house is mine. No one comes through without cause." The deputy's tone shifted, still polite, but colder. "Then let me see inside." "No." "Then I'll take a look myself." The deputy placed his palm on the door and pushed. The cowboy didn't budge. Outside, the ranch hand with the rifle lifted it an inch, testing weight, like a gambler checking dice. The deputy noticed and waved him down with an irritated flick. "No shooting," the deputy muttered. "Man wants trouble. He'll get it by law, not lead." The cowboy kept his hand braced. "You bring law here. Bring it proper, with a judge's writ." The deputy leaned closer, breath smelling faintly of whiskey and dust. "Judge is 2 days' ride. Paper says enough. Girl ran. Rancher owns her until debts are paid." His voice softened again, slippery as oil. "Come on, friend. Let us look. If she's not here, we leave." In the cabin, the woman lifted her chin. "He won't leave," she whispered. "Not until he smells fear." She had lived under that man's authority long enough to know the cold patience behind his voice. The cowboy let out a slow breath. "This girl you're hunting, she come willing to that rancher?" The deputy blinked. "Willing doesn't matter. Papers signed. Maybe it does matter." A long silence settled between the doorframe. "Move aside," the deputy said finally. "No." "You protecting her?" The cowboy didn't answer. He didn't need to. The deputy smiled again, thin as a knife. "Thought so." He took one step back, boots scraping the porch. The ranch hands straightened behind him. The cowboy felt the shift before he saw it. The deputy raised 2 fingers, giving a tiny signal. The ranch hand on the right reached into his coat, not for a gun, for a folded lantern. "Light it," the deputy said softly. "If he won't open his door, We'll search around the back." The woman's breath stopped. The cowboy's heartbeat kicked hard. Because lanterns at night didn't just mean searching. They meant smoke. They meant fire. They meant forcing people out of hiding. A match struck outside with a sharp snap, bright, hungry, and far too close. The match flared to life, a tiny sun in the deputy's hand, its crackle slicing through the stillness of the desert night. The cowboy felt the heat of it even from inside the cabin. The Apache woman pressed both hands over her mouth, not to hide fear, but to stop a cry of rage from escaping. Outside, the deputy spoke calmly, almost gently. "Easy, boys. No one's burning anything." Not unless we must. But the emphasis on must carried the weight of a threat he didn't bother to hide. The ranch hand touched the match to the lantern wick, and fire bloomed behind the glass. Warm light washed across the porch, spilling under the door in thin gold lines. Every flicker made the woman flinch. "He's not going away," she whispered. "Not until he drags me out like a stolen colt." The cowboy stepped away from the door and motioned her deeper into the cabin. "Stay in the back," he murmured, "near the storage crates. Stay low." She hesitated. "If they find me here, they'll hurt you." "They'll try," he replied. She moved fast, bare feet whispering across the floorboards. The cowboy listened until he heard the soft shift of crates, then her quiet breathing as she tucked herself behind them. Outside, the deputy paced slowly across the porch. "Man like you knows how this works," he said. "You hide what's not yours, you answer to the law." "You're not the law," the cowboy muttered under his breath. The deputy lifted the lantern, shining it across the windows. Shadows twisted inside the cabin, long and sharp. "Rancher says the girl ran with stolen goods," he called out. "Bracelets, a belt, some trinkets worth a fine sum." The woman froze behind the crates, fingers gripping her own belt, the one made of turquoise and hammered silver. Her voice came out low and fierce. "He gave them to me, then said they were stolen so he could chain me." The cowboy's jaw clenched. "You think she stole from him?" he called through the door. "Paper says it's so," the deputy replied. "And paper's what counts." "Paper doesn't tell the truth," the cowboy shot back. "Truth don't matter," the deputy said. "Ownership does." The ranch hands chuckled under their breath. That sound, low, smug, sent a thin shiver across the woman's spine. Footsteps crunched around the side of the cabin. The cowboy stiffened. "They're circling." "Yes," she whispered. "They do that before they strike." He stepped to the back wall, checking the rifle hanging above the crates. He reached for it, then stopped. He shook his head and left it where it hung. "You won't fight?" she asked. "Not yet," he said. "Not unless they force it." Her breath trembled. "They will." Outside, one ranch hand tapped on the rear window. "Anyone home?" he taunted. The woman squeezed her eyes shut. The cowboy lifted a wooden bar and slid it across the back door, quiet as he could. Then he returned to the center of the room, planting himself between her hiding place and any entrance. Through the wood, the deputy's voice carried smoothly. "Last chance, friend. Open your door and let us look. If she's not here, we ride away." The cowboy didn't answer. "How about I sweeten it?" the deputy added. "Rancher's willing to pay you for helping. Enough to mend that fence out front." The cowboy spat onto the floor. "I mend my own fences." "Pride's expensive," the deputy said. "Food for thought." The cowboy's silence hardened the air. The deputy sighed. "Suit yourself. Boys, check the barn." Boots marched toward the outbuilding. The woman tensed. "They'll see I didn't arrive on horseback. They'll know I'm here." "They already know," he said. A sudden crack split the night, wood splintering. One ranch hand kicked the barn door open, sending echoes rolling across the canyon. The deputy chuckled. "Look at that, empty barn, empty corral. You're a lonely man, friend. Lonely men do foolish things for company." The cowboy growled. "Watch your mouth." The deputy leaned closer to the window, letting his lantern glare inside. "You care for her. After one night, you don't even know her name." "She didn't offer me her name," he replied. "Just her fear." The deputy paused, then smiled darkly. "Fear sells well these days," he said. "Women in debt, women alone, men pay high for them." Behind the crates, she trembled, not from cold, but fury. The deputy lifted the lantern higher. Open the door. Now. The cowboy stepped forward and pressed his palm flat against the wood again. No. A hush fell. Then, a sharp metallic snap echoed from the back of the cabin. The woman gasped. Window latch, she whispered. Someone's opening. The cowboy spun toward the noise. A sliver of moonlight cut across the floor near the storage crates. Outside here, a voice murmured, low and eager. She's in here. I can smell her. The window groaned softly, rising inch by inch. Boots scraped against the outer wall. A shadow climbed into view. The window lifted another inch, the wood whining under the stranger's fingers. Dust drifted down from the frame. The woman pressed herself tight against the crates, breath held so firmly her chest barely moved. The cowboy took one silent step toward the back wall, boots sliding instead of lifting, every motion meant to buy seconds, not make noise. A low voice outside whispered, "Keep the lantern steady." I see her shadow. The cowboy's pulse hammered. He reached for the nearest object, a metal branding iron leaning beside the stove, quiet, heavy, something that wouldn't fire a shot but could shift a man's intentions if needed. The deputy called from the porch, tone smooth and patient as ever. "You find anything back there?" A ranch hand snickered. "Oh, I'm finding something." The woman shut her eyes, lips pressed tight. She whispered barely above a breath, "If he gets inside, he won't leave without me." "No one's getting inside," the cowboy murmured back. The man outside pushed the window higher, enough to slip a hand through. His fingers searched the inner latch, brushing the wood like a thief reading a secret code. The cowboy tightened his grip on the branding iron. The deputy hummed softly. "Let's hurry it up. Cold night. And the girl shouldn't be alone with a stranger. It ain't safe for her." Ironic words, poisonous in their courtesy. The cowboy stepped into the shadow between the stove and the window. He lifted the iron just slightly, enough to swing but not enough to gleam in the moonlight. The ranch hand's knuckles appeared first, then his wrist, then the heel of his palm as he strained to lift the window fully. A dusty boot scuffed outside. "Push harder," whispered another voice. "She's right there," the woman whispered. "He's smelling my trail. He always did that, like a wolf finding blood." The cowboy muttered, "Then let him smell steel." Outside, the deputy tapped the porch railing. "You boys taking all night? I'd like this done before dawn." The ranch hand grunted, forcing the window higher. It jerked suddenly, sticking on a knot in the wood. He cursed under his breath and shoved hard. That opened just enough space for his head to appear. The woman's eyes widened. A silent cry caught in her throat. The cowboy stepped forward. Not fast, not loud, but with the precision of a man who'd been quiet his whole life, and slammed the branding iron down on the inner frame. Crack. The window dropped like a guillotine, smashing the ranch hand's fingers against the sill. A howl broke through the night. The deputy stiffened. "What's going on back there?" The cowboy didn't wait for an answer. He wedged the iron beneath the fallen window, braced it into the wood, and shoved crates in front of the gap. Behind the wall, the wounded ranch hand staggered, swearing. "He crushed my hand. He crushed—" "Shut up," the deputy snapped. "Both of you, get back here." The woman opened her eyes, trembling. "He'll come harder now." "He can try," the cowboy said. Boots thundered toward the front of the cabin. The deputy's measured steps followed behind, slower, calculating. Then came the knock. Not polite this time. A fist hammered the door with the force of someone done pretending. "Open this door," the deputy called. "Now we've got cause." The cowboy braced his shoulders, planting himself before the entrance. The woman crouched behind the crates, one hand covering her mouth, the other gripping the turquoise belt at her waist, as if its stones would shield her. "You don't know him," she whispered. "He'll burn the cabin. He's done it before." The cowboy's eyes hardened. "Not with me inside." Outside, gravel shifted, men spreading out. The deputy's tone dropped lower than before. "You harmed one of my men," he said. "That makes this a legal search." "Your man tried to crawl through my window," the cowboy growled. "Doesn't matter how," the deputy replied. "Only matters that he bleeds. That makes you the problem now." The cowboy leaned closer to the door. "You want to talk law? Bring a real lawman." "I am the law tonight," the deputy said. A chilling quiet lingered. Then, the unmistakable scratch of tinder. Another match flared. The woman's breath hitched. "Not fire, please, not fire." "Calm," the cowboy whispered. "They won't burn the front door. Too much risk with the deputy close." The woman shook her head. "He burns from the sides. Where his badge won't see." The cowboy cursed under his breath. That was right. They'd attack the corners, the place where wood caught fastest but looked like an accident later. Outside, someone muttered, "Take it around. Dry brush will catch quick." Lantern light danced along the side wall as Boots crept toward the outer edge of the cabin. The cowboy rushed to the window slit and peered out. He saw the glow of fire already licking at a bundle of dried grass in someone's hand. He spun to the woman. "Do you trust me?" She swallowed. "With the night or my life?" "Both." She nodded, slow but certain. "Then when I say run," he whispered, "you run." Outside, someone shouted, "Ready?" A second voice answered, "Light it." The deputy stepped back on the porch and called out with the patience of a vulture waiting for meat to soften. "Last chance. Open up." The fire touched the brush, flames flared bright, and the whole side of the cabin lit up like sunrise. Flames crawled across the dry brush like hungry fingers, sparks leaping to the corner of the cabin with terrifying speed. The Apache woman pressed herself tighter behind the crates, the orange glow flickering across her eyes. "They're burning us out," she whispered. "Just like before." The cowboy knelt beside her, placing one steady hand on the crate. "Listen to me. The fire's the threat, but it's also the distraction. They think it'll force us through the front door. It won't." She shook her head. "The cabin is dry. 1 minute, maybe 2. "Then we move in 1, he said. Outside, Boots scraped on dirt as one ranch hand tossed more brush against the wall. "There it goes," he shouted. "She'll come running now." The deputy's voice stayed calm. "Keep the flame low. Don't burn it to the ground unless you must." "Why not?" a ranch hand grumbled. "Smoke her out, then take her." "Because," the deputy said, "dead property can't pay debts." Inside, the woman bowed her head, shame tightening her throat. "Property," she murmured. "They say it like I'm cattle." "You're not," the cowboy said. "And you're not going back." A beam above them cracked, heat gnawing at the logs. Smoke pushed into the cabin in slow, swirling lines. The cowboy stood, checked the window barricade, then strode to a trapdoor half hidden beneath a goatskin rug. The woman blinked, startled. "You have a cellar." "Root cellar," he replied. "Small, cramped, but it's dark and cool. Smoke won't reach it yet." She pushed to her feet, uncertain. "We hide underground?" "Only for seconds," he said. "Then we slip out the back through the vent. They won't expect it." She hesitated. "Vent?" He pointed toward the far corner. "Old exit for cold storage. Narrow, you can fit through, I'll follow." She stepped closer, voice low. "They'll circle the house." "Exactly," he said, "which means they'll leave the rear blind until the fire grows." A loud thump shook the cabin, one ranch hand kicking the wall to test how fast it burned. "That'll bring her out," he yelled. Smoke thickened, rising higher. The cowboy grabbed a wet cloth from the bucket near the stove and pressed it into the woman's hands. "Cover your mouth," he said. "Breathe slow." She obeyed, her eyes fixed on him. "Why do this for me?" He didn't answer right away. He didn't have a clean, noble answer. Instead, he said, "Because someone should have done it sooner." A sudden shout erupted outside. "Deputy, fire's spreading!" The deputy cursed under his breath. "Keep it contained. Don't let it climb." The cowboy lifted the trapdoor. Cool, damp air rose from below, carrying the smell of earth and potatoes. The woman climbed down first, careful but fast. He lowered the door after her and slipped into the darkness. Down below, everything felt close. The walls, the ceiling, the danger. She crouched near the vent, a small square of slatted wood barely big enough for a grown man. She whispered, "They'll hear if we break it." "Not with the fire," he replied. He reached up, pressing his shoulder against the slats. Wood cracked under his weight, smoke seeped in, turning the dim air hazy. Above them, heavy boots crossed the floorboards, one ranch hand checking the front door again, pounding hard. "She's still in there. Come out, girl, you hear me?" The deputy's voice cut through the noise. Enough shouting, focus on the fire line. The cowboy pushed again. The slats snapped free. Cold air rushed in. She crawled toward the opening, hesitating only once. What if they're out there waiting? He leaned close. I'll check first. No, she said fiercely. You helped me. I check. Before he could argue, she slid through the narrow gap, her small frame disappearing into the night air. He waited, listening. Silence. Then her whisper. Clear. They're all on the right side. Fire's pulling them. He pushed himself through the opening, shoulders scraping stone. When he emerged, the cold desert night hit him like a blessing. Smoke curled upward from the cabin's far wall, drawing the ranch hands like moths. The woman tugged his sleeve. This way. They moved low, staying behind sagebrush and abandoned tools. The deputy's voice drifted through the smoke. Find a bucket line. Keep the fire low. If she's smart, she'll jump out the front. One ranch hand snarled, and when she does, she's mine. The woman's hand tightened on the cowboy's wrist. He means it. The cowboy motioned her farther into the darkness. We get distance, then ridge cover, then we decide. She stopped suddenly. My belt, she whispered. It's how they tracked me. The stones hold scent. I must leave it. Throw it far, he said. She unbuckled it with trembling fingers and hurled it across the yard. It landed near a water trough. Seconds later, I got something, a ranch hand shouted. She dropped her belt. The deputy barked. Spread out. She's close. The cowboy seized her hand. Run. Now. They sprinted into the dark hills behind the cabin, hearts pounding, boots tearing through dust. Behind them, the deputy's lantern swung wildly as he shouted orders, firelight dancing across furious faces. The night swallowed them, but not the danger, because once they reached the ridge, the woman stopped, eyes wide, breath sharp. There's a light, she whispered, ahead of us. The cowboy turned and saw another lantern waiting in the rocks. The lantern waiting on the ridge didn't move at first. It glowed like a tiny star trapped between the rocks, a steady circle of gold in the otherwise black desert night. The cowboy froze, pulling the Apache woman behind him. She pressed against the shadowed boulders, breath thin, hands trembling against his back. That's not one of them, she whispered. Their lanterns swing. That one waits. He narrowed his eyes. Could be a lookout. No, she said softly. He stands alone. The cowboy listened. The sounds behind them, the shouts, the crackling fire, the deputy ordering his men, began to fade into the distance. Here on the ridge, the only sound was wind sliding along stone. Then the lantern moved, but not toward them, sideways, slow, like someone clearing a path or signaling a direction. The cowboy whispered, Someone wants us to follow. Her fingers tightened on his coat. Or to walk into their trap. He considered that. The flame wasn't shaking with excitement or fear, like a ranch hand would carry it. It moved with purpose and patience. Stay close, he murmured. They crept along the ridge, boots skimming dust. The lantern dipped, then disappeared behind a stack of rocks. When they reached the spot, a figure stepped from the shadows. It wasn't a ranch hand. It wasn't the deputy. It wasn't any man at all. It was an Apache elder. The woman gasped, hand flying to her mouth. His hair hung in long silver-black braids. His skin was weathered, but his eyes, deep, dark, and unwavering, held the quiet certainty of someone who had seen more winters than the surrounding hills. He wore no badge, carried no rifle, only a walking stick wrapped with strips of rawhide. The elder lifted one hand, not a warning, but a greeting. You run with fire behind you, he said in a low voice, and men who claim ownership that does not belong to them. The woman stepped forward, stunned. How do you know? He touched the ground with his walking stick. The earth told me. The cowboy exchanged a quick glance with her. She whispered, He is of my band. But he was far from the ranch. I thought all were gone. Some are never found, the elder said softly, and some choose not to be. The cowboy kept his grip on the branding iron he'd taken earlier. You followed us, the elder nodded. I saw the girl run, saw the men ride. I watched the deputy circle like a hawk searching for prey. He pointed his walking stick toward the canyon beyond. You must leave the open path. They hunt the hills next." The woman's eyes filled with something like hope and fear mingled. "Elder, they come for me. I cannot bring danger to you." "You bring no danger," he said. "Only truth. And truth is worth walking with." The cowboy lowered his voice. "Where do we go?" The elder glanced at the stars above, measuring their angle. Then he pointed west. "There is a dry wash beyond that ridge. In its belly lies an old winter shelter. Your enemies will not find it before dawn." The woman hesitated. "But the deputy? He has dogs he borrows from the fort." The elder's eyes sharpened. "Let them track. The wash bends like a serpent. The wind covers what it must." A distant shout echoed through the hills, carried by the wind. "Spread out, she's close." The cowboy's muscles tightened. "They're coming fast." The elder dimmed his lantern, twisting the knob until the flame shrank to a faint ember. "Follow," he said, "and step where I step, else the sand will betray you." They moved into the darkness, down the ridge, across rough stone, into the dry wash where moonlight barely touched the ground. Each step was deliberate, paced by the elder's sure-footed stride. The cowboy followed close, guiding the woman with a hand at her back. She leaned into his direction, trusting him more with every breath. Behind them, lanterns bobbed across the hillside like angry fireflies, men shouting, dogs barking, deputy urging them forward. "They're closer," she whispered. "I know," the cowboy murmured. The elder raised a hand. "Stop." They froze. Voices drifted into the wash. "I see tracks. Girl-sized, fresh. Quit yapping and follow the trail." The cowboy leaned close to the elder. "They saw our prints." The elder shook his head. "They saw hers. Not yours, not mine, and not the way the wind already moves." He pointed upward. Above the wash, dust swirled in thin currents, perfectly timed gusts sweeping across the trail they had left moments before. "Wind is our ally tonight," he said quietly. The woman whispered, "Elder, will they give up?" "No," he said simply. "Not these men. They chase coin, and coin blinds." "Then how do we survive?" she asked. The elder tapped the walking stick twice against the earth. "By going where they cannot." He led them deeper into the wash until the walls closed around them, high sandstone, narrow and twisting. The cowboy felt the temperature drop. Damp earth cooled the air. And ahead, just barely visible, stood a low opening in the stone. A natural cave, half hidden by brush. The elder pointed. "Inside, quiet." They ducked through. The cave swallowed them in darkness. The cowboy listened. The shouts grew muffled. The bark of dogs faded. Footsteps scattered above. And then a single voice carried across the wash, closer than before. The deputy. "Find her," he growled. "I don't care what you break. Bring her to me before sunrise." The woman's hand found the cowboy's, tight, desperate, but alive. The elder whispered, "Night hides those who respect it, but at dawn, all shadows vanish." Darkness settled inside the cave like a heavy blanket, but the air was cool, cooler than anything outside, and the Apache woman pressed one palm to the stone wall, grounding herself. The cowboy crouched beside her, listening. Every sound from the wash carried differently in this hollow. Footsteps above came as faint thuds, dogs as distant echoes, lanterns as thin streaks of gold flickering through cracks. The elder knelt near the entrance, leaning on his walking stick, head tilted. "They sweep the ridge above us," he whispered, "not the belly of the earth." The cowboy adjusted his breath, keeping it slow. "How long until they check down here?" The elder studied the shifting lantern light. "Not soon. The deputy trusts his ears more than his eyes. And this place swallows sound." The woman hugged her knees. "He won't stop. He wants the fear he put in me to follow me, even here." The cowboy placed a steady hand on her shoulder. "He won't get through me." She stared at him, voice trembling. "You don't know what he does when he wants something? He waits, he listens, he owns the men around him, and he uses the badge like a rope." The cowboy's eyes hardened. "Badge doesn't scare me." "It isn't the badge," she whispered. "It's the smile he wears when he breaks someone." The elder's fingers tightened around the walking stick. "A man who smiles at suffering dies with no one to say his name. But before he dies, he wounds many. The cowboy leaned against the wall, lowering his voice. We'll rest here. Let them waste their strength on the open ground. The elder nodded. But only till the moon falls. When it does, the wash becomes a trap. He turned his gaze toward the Apache woman. Child, you must speak now. Tell us what binds this deputy to you. Truth guides feet. She closed her eyes, exhaling slow, shaking air. The cowboy waited. He didn't push. He just stayed close, solid, warm, steady. Finally, she said, the rancher gave him power over me, promised him land, horses, money, anything he wanted. As long as he kept me locked to the contract, the cowboy frowned. You were never a worker, were you? She opened her eyes. I was the debt. The elder bowed his head, grief settling across his features. They traded you like land. She nodded once. My family owed the rancher after a drought ruined the crops. They pledged themselves to work it off, but the rancher wanted more. He wanted a body to control, a symbol, something to show the other bands. When my father refused, the rancher threatened to shoot him for breaking contract. The cowboy's hands tightened. So you went in his place. I thought it would keep them alive, she whispered. But he lied. My father died anyway. The elder let out a long breath. The rancher destroys everything he touches. The cowboy leaned forward. And the deputy helps him. He enjoys helping him, she whispered bitterly. He told me once, some women are born to kneel. I just show them how. The cowboy's jaw flexed, anger rising hot beneath his skin. You're not kneeling again, not for him, not for anyone. She reached for his hand, small, cold fingers brushing his knuckles. You speak like a man choosing danger. I am, he said simply. Before she could respond, a new sound drifted through the wash, a dog bark, closer now, sharp enough to echo inside the cave. The elder stiffened. They found the belt, he whispered. And now they search the scent trail. Another bark followed, louder. They come, the woman breathed. The cowboy moved toward the entrance, crouching beside the elder. Through the jagged edge of the cave mouth, he saw a lantern swing down into the wash. Then another. Shadows stretched thin and long across the sand. The deputy's voice reached them, closer than before. Fan out. Dogs say she's in this direction, the elder murmured. They reach the fork soon. From there, the wind fails us. The cowboy scanned the darkness. Options? 1, the elder said. Dangerous. The woman crawled closer. What danger? The elder pointed deeper into the cave. A second tunnel, narrow, low, it leads to a high cliff. From there, the land opens into a ravine. Hard to climb, harder to leave. But men fear falling more than they fear the dark. The cowboy nodded. Show us. The elder began moving toward the back of the cave when a voice boomed from directly above the entrance. She's here somewhere. Smells strong. The dog barked again, frantic and sharp. Dust rained from the ceiling, shaken loose by boots thudding above. The Apache woman grabbed the cowboy's arm. They're right over us. The deputy's cold voice echoed. Dig, if you must. She's close. The cowboy whispered to the elder. We go. Now, they crawled into the tunnel, hands and knees on cold stone. The woman led first, the cowboy behind her, the elder last, dragging the lantern ember wrapped inside cloth. The tunnel was tight, scraping shoulders, forcing breath shallow. Behind them, dogs clawed at sand. Men shouted. Stone cracked lightly. Then, the cowboy froze. A thin beam of light seeped into the tunnel from a crack above. Boots stood directly over them. One voice said, Hear that? Thought I heard crawling, another replied. Rock's hollow here, break through. A boot stomped. Stone shifted. Dust filled the tunnel. The elder hissed, Faster! They crawled quicker, lungs burning. The woman gasped, I see the end. Light! But before they reached it, a fist-sized rock punched through the tunnel roof, falling between the cowboy and the woman. Another stomp. Crack! A larger piece broke loose. A ranch hand's voice roared, They're under us! The stone above them groaned like a wounded animal as another boot slammed down, sending a shower of dust into the tunnel. The Apache woman flinched, shielding her head with her forearms. The cowboy slid forward, placing his body between her and the falling debris. The elder hissed behind them, urging them deeper. "Hurry," he whispered, "before the ground breaks and buries us." Another stomp. Crack. A fist-sized fragment dropped, hitting the cowboy's shoulder hard enough to numb his arm. He bit down a grunt, swallowing the pain. "I heard something," a ranch hand yelled. "They're inside the rocks." "Break it open," the deputy barked from above. "If she hid in a hole, she's trapped in a grave." The woman shuddered, breath ragged. "He wants to bury me alive." The cowboy leaned close, whispering into the narrow space. "Not tonight." "Keep moving." "I can't breathe," she whispered. The dust, he grabbed her hand, steady and firm. "Breathe through your cloth, eyes forward. You're not dying here." Behind them, the elder pressed the ember-wrapped lantern to the wall, lighting just enough to guide them. His voice came through the dust, strained but controlled. "The tunnel narrows ahead. Faster now." They crawled, elbows scraping stone, knees burning. The tunnel pressed down from all sides, cold, damp, suffocating. Every stomp above sent new cracks along the ceiling. The deputy's voice echoed, "Dig! I want that rock open now!" Steel struck stone. A crowbar. The sound rang through the tunnel like a death warning. The woman flinched, squeezing the cowboy's hand harder. "They'll break through." "Then we'll already be gone," he said. The tunnel pitched upward suddenly, narrowing to barely shoulder width. The Apache woman slid through first, her dress catching on a jagged edge. The cowboy tore the fabric free and pushed her onward. Behind them, the elder muttered urgently, "The next chamber is small. Stay low. Quiet." They crawled into a hollow no larger than a horse stall. A thin sliver of moonlight poured through a natural crack in the stone. A high vent. Air flowed cool and sweet, sweeping dust from their lungs. The woman gasped, pressing a hand to her heart. "We're higher? How?" The elder pointed to the vent. "The wash carved this over generations. The cliff lies beyond." A violent crack split the stone behind them. A chunk the size of a saddlebag collapsed into the tunnel they'd just crossed. Voices burst through the gap. "She's down there. I see light. Break it open." The cowboy swallowed hard. "We're out of time." The elder tapped the vent. "This way, you two first." The cowboy lifted the woman toward the crack. It was narrow, far narrower than the last exit. Moonlight skimmed the edges, turning them into pale knives. "I don't fit," she whispered. "You do," the cowboy said. "I'll guide you." She hesitated only a moment before bracing her hands and easing herself upward. The stone scraped her arms, her shoulders, her ribs. She bit her lip to keep from crying out. "Push with your legs," the cowboy whispered. "Breathe slow." Stone tore at her dress again, ripping fringe clean off. Behind them, boots pounded. "Dig faster," the deputy roared. "I want that hole wide." The cowboy urged her on. "Almost there. Reach the wider cut. See it? Just above you." She pushed harder, elbow scraping until it bled. Then suddenly, air. She slid through the upper opening and tumbled onto sand outside. "I'm through," she called softly. "Cowboy, come!" He slipped into the crack next, muscles straining as stone pressed on all sides. The vent pinched tight around his chest. His breath caught. Dust filled his throat. Then, a lantern flared behind him. Voices thundered. "There he is! Grab him!" A hand reached through the broken tunnel behind, fingers grasping for his boot. The cowboy shoved upward with everything he had, scraping skin, tearing cloth, forcing himself into the narrowest part of the vent. His ribs screamed, but he broke free, dragged into the open by the woman's desperate grip on his arm. He collapsed beside her, sucking night air into burning lungs. The elder climbed through last, surprising fast for his years. His braids swung as he pulled himself free, just as a ranch hand's face shoved into the crack below. "There!" the ranch hand bellowed. "They're above us!" The deputy's fury echoed through the broken stone. "Circle the ridge!" "They can't get far." The cowboy grabbed the woman's hand. "Move!" They scrambled across the cliffside, rocks sharp beneath their palms, the drop below monstrous and deep. The wind whipped dust around them, masking their silhouettes. "Where now?" the cowboy asked. The elder pointed along the cliff. A ledge, narrow, dangerous, but safe from men who fear falling. They followed him onto a path barely wider than a wagon plank. One wrong step meant a broken body on the canyon floor. The woman steadied herself with a hand on the rock wall, breath quivering. The cowboy stayed close, one hand hovering behind her back, not touching, but ready to catch if she slipped. Shouts rose from behind. Lanterns swung closer, metal clanged, dogs barked. "They're coming around," she whispered. The elder nodded grimly. "They found the upper trail. We'll outrun them," the cowboy said. "No," the elder murmured. "They come too fast." He pointed to the far end of the ledge, where the rock dipped down into a slope of loose sand. "That way," he said. "Slide with the gravel. Follow the fall." The cowboy frowned. "We'll tumble." "You'll land in the ravine," the elder said. "Better bruised than bound." Shouts grew louder. The deputy's voice cut through the wind. "I see them. Don't let them reach the slope." The cowboy grabbed her hand. "Jump," he said. She didn't hesitate. Together they flew off the ledge, falling into darkness, sliding into the ravine in a storm of sand and dust as lanterns flared above them. They hit the slope hard. Sand exploded beneath them as they slid, rolling in a storm of gravel that scraped skin and tore cloth. The Apache woman tucked her arms in, letting the fall carry her. The cowboy angled his body sideways, trying to slow both their descent. The ravine swallowed them whole, turning sky and earth into a blur of shadow. When they finally stopped, the world was quiet. Too quiet. The woman coughed, pushing herself upright. Dust clung to her eyelashes. "Are you hurt?" "Only in places I don't need," the cowboy muttered, brushing grit from his hair. The elder slid down after them, far more gracefully, landing with a grunt, but keeping his balance. He tapped his walking stick twice against the sand to steady himself. "We must move. They saw the fall." Above, lanterns bobbed like angry stars along the cliff edge. "They went down," a ranch hand shouted. "There's a path on the left." "Get ropes! Climb!" The elder motioned urgently. "This way." The ravine twisted narrow, its walls rising jagged on both sides like the ribs of some ancient animal. Bushes huddled in pockets where moisture clung. The ground pulsed with cool air that had escaped the heat of the fire. The woman pressed close to the cowboy, her breath still uneven. "They won't stop now. The deputy, he's tasted the chase." "He'll choke on it before morning," the cowboy muttered. But the worry in her eyes didn't fade. They moved deeper into the ravine. Crickets chirped. Pebbles shifted beneath their feet. Each step echoed, too loud for comfort. The cowboys slowed their pace, listening. No dogs. Not yet, but the ranch hands were shouting overhead, their lanterns sweeping the canyon floor in frantic arcs. "Drop down here. Careful. Watch the edge." "Where'd they land?" The deputy's cold voice cut through the chaos. "They can't outrun lanterns forever. Fan to both sides." The elder motioned forward. "Follow the riverbed." "There's no river," the cowboy whispered. "Not anymore," the elder replied. "But the earth remembers where water once ran." They walked in the carved-out groove of an ancient stream, its walls smooth as bone. The woman reached out, trailing her fingers along the surface. "My people hid in places like this," she murmured, "when soldiers hunted us." "And did it save them?" the cowboy asked quietly. "Some," she said. "Not all." The elder lifted a hand. "Stop." The cowboy froze. The woman held her breath. From somewhere ahead came the faintest sound, gravel shifting under weight, slowly, deliberately. The cowboy whispered, "Someone's in front of us." The elder nodded once. "One man, alone." "Ranch hand?" the woman asked. "No," the elder murmured. "He walks without boots." The cowboy's grip tightened on the branding iron he still carried. They stepped forward cautiously. Another quiet scrape echoed. Then a shadow detached itself from the wall. A figure stepped forward, not tall but wiry, Apache as well. Younger than the elder but older than the woman, his eyes flicked over her face, then to the cowboy, then to the elder behind them. The elder lifted his chin. "Brother!" The newcomer exhaled sharply, relieved. "I saw lanterns. I feared the worst." The woman stared, stunned. You survived the ranch." He nodded. "I fled the night you fled. different direction. Same fear. Then why stay near, she asked, his jaw clenched. Because the land holds our stories. If we abandon the land, we lose the stories too. The cowboy stepped forward. Are there more men with you? One, he said. He waits by the ravine mouth. The elder frowned. Too few. The deputy has many. The newcomer's eyes darkened. Then we don't fight them with numbers. The cowboy said. How then? With the land, the newcomer replied. And with fear. Men who hunt others rarely expect the hunted to strike back. The woman stared at him, troubled. You want to fight? He shook his head. Fight? No, but we can stop them, or slow them, give you time to flee. We're not leaving you behind, she said fiercely. You might have to, he replied. Above them, shouts grew louder. I see dust. They went north. Bring the dogs down. Check the ravine floor. A single bark echoed. Close. Too close. The cowboy stiffened. Dogs are on our trail. The elder pressed the lantern ember against a stone, letting its dying glow reveal their path ahead. Ravine split soon. Right path leads to a choke point. Bad ground. One wrong step, and stone falls. And the left? The cowboy asked. The newcomer answered, Left narrows. Only one person fits at a time, but it hides sound, hides scent. Good for slipping past men. Bad for standing ground. The deputy's voice boomed overhead. I hear them. They're below, spread out. The woman grabbed the cowboy's sleeve. Choose, now. He glanced at the elder, then at the newcomer, then at her. Left, he said. You're sure? She whispered. They expect us to run where there's room, he said. Not where the walls choke. They rushed into the left passage, squeezing between walls barely wide enough to pass sideways. Rocks scraped their arms. Dust clung to their clothes. Behind them, the dog barked again, close enough to feel. Then a ranch hand shouted, I found footprints. They went into the narrow cut. The deputy replied, voice sharp as a blade, Corner them. They can't hide forever. The woman's breath hitched. They're coming in after us. The cowboy tightened his grip on her hand. Keep going. They pushed deeper. The passage darkened. The walls rose, pressing in like a throat closing around them. The elder whispered ahead. Quiet now, this place carries whispers. The woman touched the cowboy's arm. I hear men. Behind us. He nodded. I hear them too. Voices echoed. There they are. Don't let them slip out. Block the exit, the newcomer hissed. They're blocking both ends. The woman stopped cold. What do we do? The cowboy scanned the tight stone, and then he saw it, a faint draft of cold air seeping through a thin break in the wall, a crack, barely wider than a fist, but leading outward. He whispered, There's a way out. The woman inhaled sharply. Where? He pressed his fingers to the crack. The air was cold, fresh, but the rock trembled under his touch. It's unstable, he warned. The elder nodded grimly. If you push there, the wall may break. Good, the cowboy said. The newcomer stared. It could collapse on us. Or on them, the cowboy replied. Behind them, boots scraped as the first ranch hand squeezed into the passage. A lantern's glow crept across the stone. The cowboy planted both hands on the crack. The woman grabbed his arm. If it collapses, you'll be buried. He looked at her once. Steady, certain. Better me than you. And he shoved. The rock groaned under the cowboy's palms, vibrating up his arms like the warning growl of a wounded beast. Dust sifted down from the ceiling, drifting across his hair and shoulders. The Apache woman backed away, heart pounding in her throat, watching him brace his legs and shove again, harder this time. A crack snapped through the stone. The newcomer hissed, Stop, one more push will bring the whole wall down. The elder finished quietly. Behind them, the lantern glow brightened as the first ranch hand squeezed deeper into the slot. His voice echoed in the narrow space. I see them. Keep your guns ready. The deputy's voice followed, cold and triumphant. End of the line for you three. No more running. The woman pressed her back to the stone, panic rising. They're too close. If the wall collapses, it buys you time, the cowboy said, not looking back. It buries you, she whispered. He didn't answer. He just planted his shoulder against the crack and gripped the stone with both hands. The newcomer whispered urgently, "If you push, the passage falls inward, on us." "Not if I hold the center long enough," the cowboy muttered. "That's suicide." "Not if you're gone before it drops." The woman stepped forward, shaking. "No." Her voice trembled, but her eyes did not. "You saved me. I won't let you die for me." Behind them, boots squeezed closer. "You almost there?" A ranch hand shouted. Another replied, "Yeah, just a little farther." The deputy barked, "Shoot if you must. Girl comes out alive." The cowboy's jaw tightened. Enough. He shoved. A violent crack ripped through the stone like thunder. The entire wall shuddered. Pebbles cascaded down. A long fracture spidered across the ceiling. The woman gasped, grabbing his sleeve. "Stop, please!" He reached for her face with his free hand, thumb brushing her cheek. A rare moment of softness in a world of stone and dust. "Trust me," he whispered. "Go." The elder grabbed the woman's arm. "Child, we move." The newcomer took her other arm. "Hurry, before the ceiling drops." She resisted, only for a moment, before she felt the rock above them shift dangerously. She swallowed a sob and allowed herself to be pulled down the passage. The cowboy waited until she was 10 steps away. 5, 3. Then he drove his shoulder full force into the crack. The canyon answered. A thunderous roar shook the passage. The seam split wide, rock tumbling outward in a violent cascade. The pressure of released stone blasted dust into the air. The ranch hand screamed, "It's collapsing!" "Fall back," another shouted. But it was too late. The ceiling buckled forward, blocking the narrow gap with a wall of shattered stone. The lantern light behind it flickered wildly, then vanished altogether, buried under the fall. Silence poured into the passage like cold water. The woman whirled, eyes wide. "Cowboy!" A cloud of dust blasted through the passage, stinging her eyes. She coughed, stumbling forward. "No, no!" She scrambled toward the fallen wall, but the newcomer grabbed her around the waist, pulling her back. "Don't!" he warned. "The stone is still shifting." She strained against his grip. "He's under there. He's alive," the elder said firmly, placing a hand on her shoulder. The crack opened outward. The weight fell toward the men behind him, not on him. "Then why isn't he answering?" she cried. The elder lifted his chin, listening. "Because he is moving through the gap he created." The newcomer nodded. A new passage. A pressure break. He slipped through before the stone fell. She pressed her hands to the dust-coated rock, tears mixing with grit. "Cowboy, speak. Say something." For a moment, nothing. Then, from behind the rubble, faint but steady. "I'm here." She exhaled sharply, collapsing to her knees. The cowboy's voice came through the cracks. "I'm cut off. Wall sealed behind me." The woman pressed her palm flat against the cold stone. "Are you hurt?" "Not bad," he said. "Bruised." Breathing. The newcomer peered at the broken seam. "He's on the other side of a fallen chamber. The stone separated the path." The elder nodded grimly. "Earth has chosen different roads for us." The woman shook her head violently. "No, no. We stay here. We dig him out." "You cannot," the elder said. "Not without tools. Not without time." She reached for the rubble, ready to tear at it with bare hands. The elder caught her wrist. "Child, listen," he whispered. "Men will be digging toward this collapse soon. Their path is blocked, but not forever. If you stay here when they break through, you will be caught between stone and guns." The newcomer added, "Your cowboy did what he did to save you. If you die here, it is wasted." Her breath trembled. "I won't leave him." "If you stay," the elder said softly, "he dies for nothing." The ravine echoed suddenly with distant shouts. "Rockfall! They're trapped on the other side. Find another way around. Move, move!" The woman's eyes filled again. She pressed her forehead to the stone, whispering, "I'm coming back for you." On the other side of the rock wall, the cowboy rested a hand against the same stone. His voice was soft but sure. "I know." The elder touched her shoulder. "We must go. Now." She drew a shaking breath, wiped the dust from her face, and forced her legs to move. The newcomer guided her down the dark path. The elder followed close behind, and behind the fallen wall, alone in a new chamber, the cowboy lifted his lantern ember, revealing a second tunnel he hadn't noticed before, a tunnel that led deeper into the unknown. The cowboy crouched in the narrow darkness, dust settling across his shoulders like a second skin. His ribs ached from where the stone had struck him, but he forced one steady breath, then another. The ember-wrapped lantern he carried burned low, just enough light to paint the new tunnel in trembling gold. Behind the collapse, men shouted, tools struck stone, dogs barked. But those sounds were fading. The rockfall had turned the world into two separate paths. There was no going back. He raised the ember, letting its weak glow reveal the walls. The tunnel sloped downward, then curved, swallowing the light. Cold air seeped from the bend ahead, clean, untouched, carrying the scent of limestone and something faintly sweet. Water, he muttered under his breath. Good. If there's water, there's a way out. He tested each step carefully. Loose gravel slid under his boots. The ceiling dropped low enough that he had to hunch. Dust scratched his throat. The ravine above him groaned as the men dug, but their digging grew fainter with each foot he moved forward. "They won't reach me before I reach her," he whispered. His voice didn't echo. The tunnel ate every sound, leaving him alone with the steady beat of his own heartbeat. He tightened his grip on the branding iron, still warm from earlier, still his only real weapon. He moved on. On the other side of the collapse, the Apache woman staggered forward through the narrowing path, guided only by the elder's lantern ember and the newcomer's sure steps. Her hands shook, fingers stained with dust and dried blood from where she'd scraped them against stone. The collapse had taken a piece of her breath with it, and every inhale tasted of panic. The elder touched her elbow gently. "Your heart races fast. You must slow it, child." "I lost him," she whispered. "He is not lost," the elder said calmly. "He walks a different trail. Trails meet again." She blinked back tears. "You speak of hope." "I speak of Earth," he replied. "Earth splits, but it also joins." The newcomer lifted his head, listening to the distant echoes behind them. They dig toward the fall, but some men break off toward the left. We must move fast. "What's ahead?" the cowboy's woman asked. The newcomer pointed. "A wider canyon, but exposed. If lanterns sweep across it, we'll be seen. So we keep to the walls," the elder said. "And trust the dark," she swallowed, nodding, though her hands still trembled. "He's alone. What if they reach him first?" "He is no fool," the elder said. "He knows how to walk danger, and he has reason now." "What reason?" she asked softly. The elder looked at her with eyes older than the desert. "You." She fell silent, breath catching in her chest. Meanwhile, the cowboy continued forward. The tunnel widened enough for him to stand straight. He let the ember rise higher. There, water trickling along the stone. He dipped his fingers, cold, fresh. "A spring," he murmured. "Tunnel's natural, means a way out, somewhere." He followed the sound until the tunnel opened into a small cavern. Water pooled along the floor, reflecting a faint shimmer of moonlight filtering through a high crack in the ceiling. A way out. Maybe. He dragged a crate-sized rock beneath the crack and climbed it, reaching upward. His fingers brushed stone, cold and rough. The opening was narrow, but maybe wide enough to push through. He pressed harder. Stone crumbled. A fist-sized gap widened. Moonlight spilled across his face. "Good," he whispered. "Good." Then he heard it. Boots. Above the cavern. "Men." "Deputy," a voice called. "We found a break in the rock up here, lights shining through." Another voice followed, strained and angry. "You think they crawled under us?" The cowboy froze. If they found the hole above, they'd widen it from the top before he could climb through. He dropped quietly down to the cavern floor, extinguishing the ember with 2 fingers. Darkness swallowed him whole, but he listened. Boots scraped rock overhead. Shovels dug. A voice said, "Open it! If he's down there, he'll have nowhere to run." The cowboy's jaw clenched. He scanned the cavern with his hands, feeling walls, searching for another exit. Nothing. Only the hole above, and the water. He ran his fingers along the shallow stream. It flowed toward a narrow slit in the cavern wall, so small it barely seemed a path. He whispered to himself, "If water found its way through." He set his shoulder against the rock and pushed, feeling it give only slightly. Then again. The slit widened a fraction. Behind him, dust rained from the ceiling. "They're hitting it," he whispered. He shoved. Stone sliced his arm. He shoved again. The slit groaned wider. He forced his body sideways, scraping through with the grit of a man who refused to die underground. Behind him, a crowbar punched through the ceiling. Light exploded into the cavern. "There!" a ranch hand shouted. "He's below!" The cowboy slipped his shoulder through the gap, then his ribs, then his hips. Stone tore at his clothes. A hand reached through the widening hole above. "Grab him!" He sucked in one final breath and lunged, sliding fully into the black tunnel beyond. Just as lantern light flooded the cavern he had escaped, he hit the ground hard on the other side. Dark, cold, silent, alive. Far ahead in the ravine, the woman suddenly stopped, clutching her chest. The newcomer whispered, "What is it?" She swallowed. "I felt him." The elder nodded once. Then he breathed still. She closed her eyes tight, letting hope burn against the fear. Then the wind shifted, carrying a distant echo through the rocky maze. Boots, many, coming fast. "They're behind us," she whispered. "Close." The newcomer drew a sharp breath. "We must run again." But the elder lifted his lantern, eyes narrowing at the darkness ahead. "No," he whispered. "We must decide." "Decide what?" she asked. The elder's voice dropped to a grave tone. "If we run, or if we stand." The ravine narrowed into a throat of jagged stone. Wind tore through it like a warning, carrying dust, cold, and the distant echo of boots. The Apache woman pressed a hand to the wall, trying to steady her breath. The elder stood beside her, lantern ember cupped in his palm. The newcomer crouched low, tracking the direction of the shouts behind them. "They're close," he whispered. "Too close." The elder lifted his chin, testing the wind. "Spirits push east, toward the open basin." The woman shook her head. "Open ground, they'll see us." "Then we become unseen," the elder said. "Become the earth itself." The newcomer frowned. "Elder, she's scared, she's tired, and we can't outrun 20 men." The woman swallowed, voice cracking. "If we run, we leave him behind." "He is not behind," the elder said. "He walks toward you even now." She blinked. "You feel him too." "I feel the land shifting," the elder murmured, "and something moves within it." Before she could speak, a dog barked, sharp, vicious, close enough to sting the air. The newcomer cursed. "They sent the hounds ahead." The elder tightened his grip on the walking stick. "Then the moment has come." The woman looked from one man to the other, trembling. "Moment for what?" "To turn," the elder said. "To stand." The cowboy's woman shook her head, fear rising like a tide. "I can't fight them, I can't." "You will not fight," the elder said. "You will witness." The newcomer unsheathed a small stone blade. "And we will shield you." Boots pounded on stone. Lanterns flared into view. The deputy's voice cut through the ravine like a knife. "There they are." 3 ranch hands charged first, rifles in hand. The elder stepped forward, raising his walking stick, not as a weapon but as a boundary. "Turn back," the elder warned. "Your hunt ends here." A ranch hand scoffed. "Old man, move aside." The deputy shoved past his own men, eyes wild, dust caked to his face, badge glinting under the lantern light. "Well now," he said softly, savoring the moment. "You ran far, girl, farther than I expected." The woman pressed against the rock, heart pounding. The deputy lifted his lantern, letting the light crawl across her face. "Thought you'd hide in shadows forever. Thought this wanderer," he gestured to the newcomer, "and this elder would save you." She stayed silent, lips trembling. He smiled the same smile she dreaded. "I gave you a place. You turned your back. And now you've got 2 options." He raised 2 fingers. "Come with me, or watch everyone here die because of you." The elder stepped forward. "She is not yours." "She never was. She was bought," the deputy hissed. "And that makes her mine." "No," the elder said. "It makes her stolen." The deputy raised his pistol. The woman gasped, stepping forward. "Wait!" But something else moved in the ravine. A sound, low, rough, growing. Stone grated softly somewhere beneath them. The deputy frowned. "What was that?" the newcomer whispered. "Earth moves when something big walks." The deputy aimed the pistol at the elder. "One more word, old man, and—" He never finished, because the ground behind him split. Stone burst outward, showering the ravine with dust and shards. Men staggered, lanterns swinging wildly, and from the broken earth the cowboy climbed out, covered in dust, blood streaking his arm, breath heaving, branding iron in his hand. Alive. The woman cried out, voice breaking with relief. "Cowboy!" He didn't look at her yet. His eyes were locked on the deputy. The deputy stepped back, stunned. How did you—" The cowboy's voice came low, steady, lethal. "You talk too much." The deputy raised his pistol. "Don't take another step." The cowboy took another step. The deputy screamed, "Shoot him!" But the ravine betrayed the ranch hands. Rocks shifted under their boots. One man slipped. Another's rifle jammed with dust. The third raised his gun. The cowboy swung the branding iron. Steel hit bone with a crack that echoed through the canyon. The ranch hand dropped, lantern flying from his grip. The deputy fired, a wild shot that sparked off stone inches from the cowboy's shoulder. The woman screamed, "Stop, please!" Gunfire erupted. Shouts filled the ravine. The newcomer lunged at a ranch hand, blade flashing. The elder swung his walking stick, knocking a pistol from another man's grip. Dust choked the air. Gunshots ricocheted off stone walls, sparks flying. The deputy lunged for the woman. She stumbled backward. The cowboy roared, charging him. They collided hard, crashing into the ravine wall, the pistol flying from the deputy's grip. The deputy clawed at the cowboy's throat, spitting curses. "You think she's worth dying for?" he snarled. The cowboy crushed him back against the stone. "She's worth living for." The deputy reached for a knife hidden in his boot. The cowboy slammed him again. The woman cried out, reaching toward them. "Cowboy!" The deputy twisted free, lunged toward her. Knife raised, the cowboy seized his arm, and both men tumbled toward the edge of the ravine. Sand gave way. The world tilted. The woman screamed, running forward, just as the cowboy and the deputy slid toward the deadly drop. Dust spiraled upward. Lantern light flashed across falling stones. The deputy's knife glinted. Both men vanished over the edge. The dust settled in the ravine, thick and choking, but the sound of movement had stopped. The Apache woman sank to her knees, hands trembling, eyes scanning the canyon floor. The cowboy was gone. The deputy was gone. All that remained was silence, heavy, broken only by the whisper of wind through the jagged stone. The newcomer knelt beside her, placing a steady hand on her shoulder. "He lived," he said quietly. "He always finds a way." The elder nodded, eyes scanning the cliffs. "And the men, let the earth claim what it must. They sought control, and it was the land that judged them." She exhaled, letting relief wash over her. The riverbed stretched ahead, shadows fading as moonlight lit a path to freedom. She glanced at the two men, her allies, her protectors, and a spark of hope ignited. For the first time since fleeing the rancher, she felt safe. Together, they climbed the far side of the ravine, reaching open ground. Stars reflected in the shallow stream that ran through the canyon. Silence became their ally. Each step carried them further from the men who had claimed to own her, and closer to a life defined by choice, not fear. The cowboy emerged finally, leaning against a jagged stone above them, dust-covered but alive. His eyes met hers, and in that glance was a promise. No chains, no debts, no one would force her back into the shadows. Freedom was theirs, earned through courage, patience, and trust in one another. The desert stretched wide, open, unforgiving but beautiful, and for the first time they could breathe without looking over their shoulders. The elder's voice carried softly, yet firmly, "Survive tonight, and the dawn becomes yours. Every choice made with care brings redemption. Remember, child, the earth watches, but it forgives only those who walk with honor." The woman nodded, feeling the weight of the past lift slightly. Her eyes caught the silver glint of the desert moon on the rocks, the whisper of water along stone, and she smiled faintly. Life ahead promised danger, but also hope. If this story gripped you, imagine the many other tales hidden in the dust and shadows of the frontier. Stories of courage, survival, and redemption. Subscribe now and follow our channel to witness every thrilling twist and daring escape, where every hero faces impossible odds and every choice carries life or death stakes. Don't miss the next Apache story, where loyalty, bravery, and cunning collide in moments you'll never forget. Hit the notification bell to stay updated. Join our journey through the unforgiving wilds, where each chapter leaves you on the edge of your seat. Share this video to show friends the stories of resilience you can't find anywhere else, and dive into adventure today.